The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to the John Lebang Show.
You know, folks, it is absolutely disturbing how the malpractice media holds back. They hold back a story since February. And then when they need something to foment a little more division, as if we haven't had enough division in this country, they release a story with video and everything. And most people are, again, just gobbling up the news, sharing the information that the mainstream malpractice media held back for 3 months. They held it back. And at the most opportune moment, they unleash it, and everybody's acting like it's something new. Then they have protests right away. Protests. We're there just like that. And my fellow Americans are gobbling up that information. And it's carrying it on because this wonderful malpractice media, well, they put out some other stories talking about how the virus is worse for minorities. And it shouldn't have to be that way. As if the virus is a racist thing. Then they discuss in another article, they discuss the protests against the COVID-19 lockdown. And of course, they describe them all as white protesters. Because it's only white people that are meanies and stupid and won't listen to the government. Right at an opportune moment, ladies and gentlemen, they decided to throw the race card at you. They held back a story, and then now there's an accompanying assortment of articles on your typical sites that would do this sort of thing. Talking about racism in one way or the other. COVID's racist. White people are racists. And it's unfortunate that most of America just aren't going to put that together, lock that in, going, oh, why are they waiting this long to tell us about this thing? Why did they wait this long? Explain that to me, folks. It just happened to pop up right when there are food shortages happen, right when the country in some ways is at a tipping point. When they're going to reopen the economy, apparently, reopen it up to all those non-essentials that, well, they for one reason or another had to stay home for the past 6 or 8 weeks, creating record number of unemployment, Great Depression levels and better, folks. Why would the malpractice media foment more divide at this moment in time? Why would they hold back a story for 3 months and unleash it right when things were supposedly going to normalize. I'm sure it's just coincidence. And I'm sure the American people won't fall for this crap. Oh, but they have already. And you're going to see more stories over the coming week, folks. Maybe even 2 or 3 weeks. Talking about racial issues. You see, they had to dredge up one of their old favorites. Now that things are about to supposedly normalize. They didn't have that waiting, sitting in their back pocket, ready to pull out or anything. But they did. They had a horrendous situation where 2 piece of craps, 2 people who aren't people, 2 animals chased down another human being. Of course, the media can't see that as just 2 men chasing down 1 man. No. They had to throw the racial in there. They had to throw it in there. Because the media is racist on its face. Every chance they have a chance to discuss race, what do? They bring it up. But this all happened randomly. Right here in the middle of May, when the event was way back in February. Why didn't they publish it then? Why didn't they publish it then? Why didn't they talk about it? There was a report back then. There was a police report. Obviously. And we hear it's taking so long for this and nothing happened with the departments. I wonder why. I wonder why. And why it's now all coming out at the same time. Nothing to get the American people more divided. No, this is by sheer coincidence. And while this comes out, important information on the other side hits the news, and it's going to be buried by this. Coincidentally. And that's former Green Berets, U.S. Green Berets, were caught in Venezuela trying to start some kind of coup or uprising. Funded by Guido, the guy who hangs out with President Trump there. But that's not going to dominate the news when there's a race issue happening. When they went on April 1st, April Fool's Day, see, they fooled you, ladies and gentlemen. Why do you think they came out with that task force meeting that day? They were all fooling you. They said it was about cartels. So we send a couple little task forces out there, little fleets. Carrier fleets. Out to the region. Then lo and behold, a month or so later, some kind of mission fails where former U.S. Green Beret mercenaries, apparently paid by Guido, Trump's buddy, that guy who supposedly is the rightful president of Venezuela or whatever, his little coup, that little operation failed, with the assistance of Russia, by the way. See, folks, while you're going to be busy on a 3-month-old story that they dug up, they didn't care about it when it happened. They really didn't care about that poor gentleman who's attacked by the other 2 gentlemen. Chased down. They didn't care about. They held that story. They were like, oh, let's put this story aside and let's wait on it until we need it. Until we need some kind of distraction. And lo and behold, 3 months later, the same week we find out there was a former Green Beret and his buddies of mercenaries in Venezuela attempting to foment a coup or an uprising. By sheer coincidence, isn't that right, folks? By sheer coincidence. I didn't even want to do this show today because I know where the American people's head's going to go. They're going to go and focus on the race issue. I've already seen dozens of people sharing the story. Guaranteed they only read the headline, maybe the first line. And they didn't get to the part in February. Or just, even worse if it does this, but they just ignored it. They didn't even think, oh, wait a minute, this was in February. Why are they telling about this? Why are they telling us about this now? Where was the outrage in March? Where was the outrage in April? Ah, you see? And some dude films it. A lot of people want him in trouble, right? What is he going to do, ladies and gentlemen, if there are two men with shotguns attacking another guy and all he's got is a camera? Okay? You want him to stop that? Sure, he might end up dead. Okay. That's probably the right thing to do, but most people don't do the right thing. And here we are, drugging up the old normals once again because everybody wants to go back to normal. And this is the normal you're going to get, folks. You wanted to go back to normal. This is it. You're going to get racial issues. You're going to get wars. All on your dime. All on your time. All manipulated by the freaking malpractice media that you consume their garbage on a daily basis. And here I am, some little alternative media guy who doesn't want to sit here and focus on the malpractice media and have to just expose their utter malpractice. But I feel like I'm forced into doing such a thing. And it's getting old because I see people sharing all this information, not realizing what they're sharing. They're just blindly sharing it all. No headline to give their opinion, and that gets me riled in another way. But we won't go there. The sharing of information, they don't share the information from their own sources that they know. They'll share blindly the malpractice media's information all the time. And the information that's been right all along that doesn't come from the mainstream malpractice media. Oh, that malpractice media is used to point out where they're heading you. But that information is never shared amongst friends and shared amongst the social media. Now, you don't want to be labeled a tinfoil hatter, even though down the line, when it happens, down the line, that information was far more accurate than anything in the malpractice media. And I don't mean accurate by telling you what the story is, but they're using a 3-month-old story, folks. 3-month-old story as if it's something new, as if it happened. And they've got to cover it now. It's big breaking news. This is the oldest news there is. Maybe the media was too busy with the impeachment and then COVID, right? They couldn't use this right away. And they said, well, we'll just sit on this for a little while. And when we need it, we'll publish it and act as if it's something breaking. Give me a break. We'll be right back, folks.
Hey, Uncle Shady, where are they going? Hey, you, get back here. The John Lebang Show will be right back. Are you in need of commercial or residential window cleaning? Do you need your office cleaned? Maybe custodial work? How about some gutter cleaning? If you do, then call Pane in the Glass. For a beautiful shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass. You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's better than an eye-reader convention.
And then we got some great news out of the New York Police Department. Oh, yeah. You know what, folks? They expect the post-pandemic crime surge to be out of hand. They're saying it's going to be a crime surge. Why is it going to be a crime surge? Well, most people are going to read the headline and move on. Crime surge. Well, it's because they, by their own admission, folks, they say it in their own quotes, in their own words. It's going to be because they let out criminals onto the streets. Of course, they're not going to talk about the people who are starving because they're out of work, although they're getting paid very generously in some cases from the federal government to sit home. Remember, Trump signed all that in, folks. You can blame one side with that big D next to it, but the Trumpster rode right along with it. Both sides used this crisis, manufactured or not, to do things they couldn't do otherwise. The old Rahm Emanuel position. So, while you're all still focused on the COVID-19 and now you're going to get your focus off of that because they need your focus off of that now. They want you focused on the racial issues. Because they don't want you focused on being hungry, which is going to happen real soon if we don't be careful. Be a good time to stock up on some tuna fish in those cans while they're still cheap enough. That's all I'm saying. Because you're going to need that protein, folks. 1 or 2 cans of that is a pretty cheap way to survive each day. Mix it in with some noodles or something. But what happens when these criminals that were set loose by the government, state and federal government, set loose the criminals on the streets? Very few of them have had somewhere to go. And they're not going to find jobs right away. So what are they going to do? Well, they're going to revert back to their previous profession. When in doubt, you go back to what you know. And what we're seeing is the government isn't worried about criminals anymore. They're worried about shop owners and people who are defying the lockdown orders. So, as these things add up, folks, as these things continue to build on top of each other, one day there's going to be a breaking point. When people are going to be out of work for forever. There was just a recent story or study, I forgot what it was. I didn't include it in the Daily Brew. I just kind of read it quickly and said, I could tell them about it, but why depress you anymore? But it's going to take up to 10 years to recover what we lost in just 6 or 8 weeks. Why? Well, that's what the experts say. And what the experts say is probably what they want to happen. You see, they tell you things, folks, in advance to prepare you. But they know most of you aren't going to listen, and you won't listen. You'll ignore it until it hits home and affects you. That's why you ran out for TP. That's why you ran out for the sanitizer and all those other items when you didn't have them prepared, when you didn't have them stocked up already. And you caused a shortage. They knew you would do it. You see, they created the conditions for that. They've created the conditions for these crime surges because they let out the criminals, and the criminals had nowhere to go, and the criminals are going to be hungry, and the criminals won't be able to get jobs because no one, or very few of us, are going to be able to get new jobs. Right when it was going, folks, right? Remember, they were that stock market bubble was blowing. And by the way, the stock market's not doing all that terrible compared to the middle class, the American people. There's still gains over there. Not for the American people, but there are still gains for the stock market. So what are you going to do, folks, when, it comes down to there's going to be layoffs in the coming weeks and months? You watch police force. We're already seeing it in the hospitals, fire departments, when public servants are being laid off. And the top dogs aren't going to work for free, apparently like the president does. Witless Gretchen up there at Lansing, she reduced her pay by 10%. I think she should do what the president does and give up all her paycheck. She won't do that. You see, they're okay at the top. That's why it doesn't bother them to do these things like unleash the criminals. Because it's not like they're going to be affected by those criminals. One, they have armed guards protecting them. They always want to take your guns away, but they have armed guards around them, protecting them at all times. It's a joke, folks. It's a joke. And you all want to go back to normal, which is a normal that they created, a normal that they're going to decide. So that's fine if you want to go there. But this time around, I don't want to hear any complaints. See, I don't want to hear people complaining when the government takes too much power, when they can't control themselves personally. Then you hear people telling you what you should do and what you should not do, from the government all the way down to the YouTubers. Like I've talked about Roy Potter a few times here on the show. Watch his videos, but he's telling people don't resist. He's telling people don't wear the masks, don't follow the rules, resist. Well, Roy, just saying, I was wearing the mask way before the powers that be told us we should be wearing masks. Far before that. And that was just to protect myself in case there was something like a boogie woogie virus going around. And I'm not wearing the little cotton masks that are going to do you no good. So full of crap. These new rules make no sense because they're not going to work. If there is a boogie woogie virus going around and it's as spreadable, as contagious as they're saying, them little homemade masks ain't going to help you too much, folks. That's all I'm going to say. All right? You need the N95. That's the minimum or better. And you can't buy the N95 anymore because by some, sheer power grab, they're being made for the government instead of you. And you have to go with the inadequate versions that they impose on you. So you're right. Roy, those masks that people are being told to wear, the little homemade masks, I don't see why you should even wear them because they're not going to work, folks. They are not. They won't filter out the particles well enough. Now, it may stop on the mask. You might have to wash it every single day or sanitize it in some way or another. Don't drink any sanitizer, please. I think some people already drank sanitizer, and that's why they're stupid. But if you don't have, and the N95 mask, ladies and gentlemen, that's the bare minimum you need. Bare minimum. And I'm telling you, particles can still get through that after so many hours. Because the effectiveness of those masks reduce the longer you use them. So, I'm not with Roy Potter telling people don't wear masks. If you feel like you want to wear them, go right ahead. That's freedom. But don't do it because the government tells you. Do it because you want to do it. That's all I'm saying. Same with all the other supposed rules out there. The social distancing, which I've done long before any of this happened. If you want to social distance, that's fine. If you want to congregate real close, maybe you want to get some boogie-woogie on, then do it. That's up to you, each individual involved. And if you want to share your germs, that's fine with me. I don't care. Maybe the germs will get you, maybe they won't. Sometimes germs help you. And viruses, well, you hear people talking that it's an alleged virus or hoax virus, or I know plenty of people that were extremely sick. So I'm not going to call it a hoax at all. Makes no sense to have a hoax. What it does make sense is to have a virus available so that you can take advantage of that said virus to implement things you couldn't do when there wasn't a virus. And now because we're tired of the virus, the average American is long since tired of the virus because they've talked about it for 2.5, 3 months now. We've shifted off a long time ago, but, we don't follow the mainstream. We try to get ahead of the curve. And that's to protect ourselves, folks. That's to protect ourselves. Because I don't know how many of you actually take what we say here. You might like the show and all, but take what we say here and implement it in your own life. Now, when the danger's at your doorstep, you might do that. But when the danger's not right there, are you doing the things that you need to do so you don't have to panic when the danger's at your doorstep? And the next danger, as we've been warning you for a long time, we've been telling you the upcoming dangers. We were 2 or 3 weeks? Maybe 4, 5 weeks on certain things ahead of the rest of the mainstream. Well, you've got unleashed criminals, people that are going to be hungry, people out of work, people that have no means of supporting themselves. And that's not too far off. And when those people get desperate, things are going to look a whole lot different in that normal that you wanted to go back to. Gonna take a quick break. Second half of the show right after this.
Don't move a muscle.
The John Lebang Show will be right back.
With lots of fun and excitement. Yes!
Jim's Tuxedo and Menswear is your one-stop shop for tuxedos and men's quality suits. We go the extra mile to make sure your tux or suit is the perfect fit. Our huge selection is second to none in the state.
Looking good.
Outstanding customer service.
And we're located on Dix Toledo in Southgate. Call today, 734-285-3253.
Jim's Tuxedo and Menswear is the place to be.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming to Jim's Tuxedos and Menswear.
You know I had to come to the best.
That's right.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
If you want to contact the John Lebang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look him up at John Lebang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John Lebang Show. Banger. Now here's John.
Yeah, so when I'm getting ready for the show, I didn't even know if I wanted to do a show. Because it's frustrating to the point where it makes you angry that you do all this work in preparing for a show, preparing to put across something that the listeners can learn and understand and maybe pass on to other people, and then they don't. They keep that information for themselves for whatever reason. Yet you see them sharing fake news or old news like the malpractice media's attempt to gin up racism. So what point, or at what point, does a person here on the alternative media, and there's many of us that are ahead of the game all the time, what point do you just go, why should I even share this information with people? Why does it even matter? Let them live in their little blissful little world, their little bubble, and what comes, and you just prepare yourself. Now I can tell you what's coming next beyond the crime rate that's going to just go through the roof soon. And we're not talking just stealing, folks. That's going to happen, but we're going to hear about this. People are going to end up killing people in some cities over this whole conundrum that we find ourselves in. And the worst part is once we get back to normal or reopen, which some people will think is getting back to normal, we're going to end up doing what Germany's doing now or South Korea. And that's re-shutting down areas because guess what? They say the boogie woogie virus is upticking again. I've been covering the boogie woogie virus the whole time, so don't feel like I'm changing my position on it. I still think it's a bad scenario. And if we didn't do our social distancing, their term, I call it just staying the hell out of the way. If many of us just didn't stay out of the hell of the way, whether by forced edict by the government or just doing it on your own, the ones who did it on their own did it out of precaution. The ones that did it because the government said so, well, we know that there's always going to be a vast majority of people that are going to follow the mainstream, the government, the malpractice media. And that's why they picked up on the February story in May when the damn malpractice media released it. So not only are we going to have crime in the coming months that's going to surge, not only are we going to have long-standing unemployment and food shortages as long as the COVID thing still exists and it still spreads throughout the food processing plants and the meat processing plants, we're going to be having rolling lockdowns, which they told you, if you would have listened, they were telling you this a couple months ago. When we reopen, we're going to have rolling lockdowns, as they need to lock down an area for whatever they deem they need to lock it down for. They're going to call it a COVID thing. They're going to call it the boogie woogie virus. But maybe it's for other reasons we don't know. And there's not enough of us going out there and sharing information to see if we can get the... Sure, you'll share the mainstream malpractice media's info. And most of you do it without even mentioning why you're sharing it. I don't understand that either. If you're just sharing something blankly, I know I'm diverging a little bit. If you're just sharing something blankly on social media, nobody knows why you're sharing it. So, just a little thing. Hey, I think this is cool. Hey, you think this is BS? Hey, whatever. At least the people who see it in your friggin' feed will have a clue on what you're talking about, why you're sharing it. But again, most people will see the headline, read maybe the first line or two, first paragraph at the most, and then it's off to the share button. Well, why don't you share the information before it happens, is all I'm saying. If somebody's telling you, or you believe something is coming down the pike, but not necessarily if somebody's telling you, but if you trust in a source and you think this is something that possibly could be coming, and you really want to do people right, you make sure they know in advance, not as it happens. And you sure don't share a freaking story without telling people why you're sharing it when it's 3 months old, but the malpractice media just decided to unleash it for a purpose. We've got to do a better job of being self-responsible. But that's the greater issue at large. We're not. It's unfortunate. My liking of the American people, which I loved people as I lived my life. I was really a big fan of people. Well, that has ebbed as I get older. There is no ebb and flow like anymore. It's an ebb. And I've distanced myself from social gatherings for a long time. I don't prefer to mingle with people anymore. Because most people, are just oblivious. So when I go into a situation, at least oblivious to what I'm talking about. So unless I talk about only things they are willing to grasp, then it's a hard time going out and socializing with people. But yet, that's why I do my show. Because it allows me to express where I see things, to warn people in advance that things might be coming down the line. It makes no sense to tell them something happened after it happened. You've got the malpractice media to handle that. Enough people watch their platforms without you having to share their information. But we've become a big company, big name country. How's that sound? The big names are what we buy from, what we share, what we purchase, what we enjoy. That's why Disney bought all the popular all the popular trademarks they could. That's why you watch mainstream malpractice media. That's why you go to big name food chains instead of mom and pops. That's why you go to the Walmarts and the Home Depots and the other places like that. Big name. You get big promotion, you get big name, you're bought in. And you think that normal is good. People want to go back to the normal. But the normal is big companies get bigger, big government gets bigger, which makes you smaller. And you continue to get smaller. To where you need to be part of some group to have any voice. And then your voice is drowned out by some other millions of voices screaming just as loud as you or louder. And that's how you have volume. But volume should be in the individual. And as long as we continue down the normal that we're going to get, notice I don't say the normal we used to have, because it's not going back. When you can walk through the grocery store or the party store or anywhere else that didn't have spit glass and now they do, yeah, that's going to be the new normal. What other new normals are coming as they reopen, as they adjust society to fit the new normals? We're supposed to adhere to all their genius ideas, yet it was them who failed us in the very first place, and them who are creating the new rules for the rest of us. And the big businesses that benefited from all the small business being told to shut down, you continue to buy from those big businesses. You're only helping the beast. You're only growing the monster. And when you look at the CEOs and the boards of directors that are involved with this company and that company and the other company, you realize that these people don't work for that company. They work for someone else. They're just part of a board. And you start realizing the higher you get up to the top, the less separation there is, and the more of a one mind, one unified thought pattern there is. And that thought pattern has nothing to do with your benefit. And that's why you got the lockdown and others didn't. That's why you lost your job and they didn't. That's why you have to wait for a handout from the government and they're sitting pretty with armed security guards surrounding them to protect them from, guess who? You. Probably not them criminals that they unleashed. Hell, those people are happy. They're friends of the officials that let them go now. Thanks. Thanks, copper. Thanks, governor. Thanks, sheriff, whoever it was. And you're going to have to deal with them. They're not. You're going to have to deal with the food shortage. You think Trump, Gretchen Whitmer, or any of the governors are going to have to deal with food shortages? Are you kidding me? Do you think any of the rich people, including and below Bill Gates, are going to have to worry about a food shortage? They're going to get food shipped in from wherever and they're going to get priority. While you're going hungry, while you're dealing with an economic collapse, and while you're dealing with criminals that they let out on you. Yeah. And that's the normal that everybody wants to go back to or move forward into, because that's the normal they've created the conditions for. And you don't want to learn. It's unfortunate, but maybe there's some hope in the future. Hope. Ha. We'll be right back.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Because the John Lebang Show will be right back.
After this. That's guaranteed. Yes. Absolute Skin and Body Care, located in Livonia, Michigan. If you're in need of laser hair removal, skin care, laser tattoo removal, or laser hair regrowth, call Absolute Skin and Body Care. They're located at 37625 Ann Arbor Road, Suite 105 in Livonia, Michigan. Their phone number is 248-533-0448. Absolute Skin and Body Care. Give them a call. You're listening to the John Lebang Show. It's huge. Now I got to tweet about it.
So the only hope, in my opinion, and I'm now agreeing with Roy Potter again, it's not a new idea that I picked up from him, but he said it first, even though it was really in my head. I had said it other ways, but I'd never put it this way. We don't need any leaders anymore, as far as I'm concerned, and Roy Potter's concerned, and we should embrace the change. As far as we should take it head on. Instead of wanting to go back to a normal that they create, we should just push that change right over the edge. I mean, I said it, but Roy said it much better. Just take everything. I said we should shut it down. Don't go to work. Don't buy anything. Again, that'll cause a lot of hardship. Roy's a little different on how he feels to embrace the change. He's considering the balkanization of the country. Yeah, that's probably going to happen as well. But we can go at their timetable, and I don't know if that's where Roy was leading, but we can go on their timetable, or we can expedite it. It's up to us as Americans. We can expedite it and push it over the edge and just shut it all down ourselves and start to deal locally and in the hell with it. But that means we have to be able to embrace freedom in its truest form, which means we each have to be responsible for every action we do. And that's the rub. That's the rub. Because I don't believe in my heart that most people would do that. They would look for help from wherever they could get it, because they weren't prepared for this, and most people unfortunately aren't prepared for any of this, because we all deal with what's in front of us, not what's coming down the road. And those are the kind of drivers, if we're going to use a metaphor right now, those are the kind of drivers that get in a lot more accidents than the people who see that there's something down the road. Those are also the people, if you don't get in the accidents, that they get caught by the train because they didn't see the train was actually stopped on the tracks. But the person who can see down the road can see that the train is stopped on the tracks and will take an alternate route to get to the destination they need to go. But unfortunately, the American people are so one-tracked in their thinking that they'll drive down that road not even noticing that the train is stopped. But if they do notice the train is stopped, they'll continue, and they'll just eventually get to where the train is stopped and be stuck. Then maybe they'll have to turn around, or maybe they'll just wait for the train to move. But either way, you're being delayed. And in cases of emergency, delays are the worst thing that can happen. Like we saw with the government. Look at how much delay in their time and their reactions to all this, especially in like states like Michigan. They delayed, they waited, they wanted to see what other states were going to do. And then by the time they made up their mind to just do what the state next to them did, it was already too late. Because you have to know the people you're dealing with. And our governor didn't really know who she was dealing with. She didn't take the time to know her constituents all that well. Because if she did, she would have known that many of them were going to get sick because they weren't going to listen to her orders. And she should have done something earlier. But she was driving down the road. She saw the train was there, and she didn't turn. She didn't turn. And when she got to the tracks and everything stopped, instead of pointing you, hey, go the other way, she said, come this way. Okay, stop. Don't move. Train's here. Don't move. We got you. Just hang on. No. You don't want to go back. If you go back, you might actually get out of this mess. No. Just hang on. Just stop. Okay, next. Stop. That's all she did. Because she didn't see. Maybe she did, if you believe in some more nefarious motives. But again, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt when I should know better. I do know better. But when I'm speaking here, I try to give you, the listener, the appearance that I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. When I already know that by either incompetence or sure stupidity, which is incompetence, let me rephrase that. Incompetence or sure wrongdoing, purposeful wrongdoing. Either way, we got to this point. It was going to end up here. Not because I'm a prophet, but because I know. I know mankind. I know leadership, supposed leadership, especially political leadership. I know that very well. And I know corporate leadership pretty well as well, which is very much like the political leadership. No one's ever at fault. and whatever was implemented, no matter how much it's actually on them, it wasn't their fault. Somebody else will get fired, not them. So, winding down the show, I've said a lot of what I had to say to you folks. If we really want a positive change in this world, or at least in this country, if we want something good to come out of all of this, we have to force their hand. Because if we accept the rules that they tell us is going to be the new normal, you're going to end up with less freedom than you had before. You're going to be watched more. Look at these groups, these states are putting together, these contact tracing. You know what that is? That's Big Brother. That's Big Brother watching over you, using citizens to watch over their neighbors. Unless they have an AI that can do it as well. So you see, folks, that new normal that you're trying to rush to get back to is going to be not like the old normal. And it's never going to be that way. Now, you can choose to accept it, or you can embrace pushing it over the edge. Most people will just accept the loss of freedom so that they can live in the illusion that they have some sort of liberty because they can go shopping or they can buy a new car or something like that. Unfortunately, the job market might irrevocably be changed. The meat industry, the grocery stores. Look at the new normal that has been created because of the conditions that were created by the people who supposedly know better than all of us, folks. They are the ones that are so enlightened that they can rule over the rest of us. And no matter how many mistakes, no matter how many times they fail us, they still know better than you. And as long as we allow them to create the conditions so that their normal will be able to exist, we're never going to get back to the normal that we knew. And that normal still wasn't the normal I knew back in the 90s or before that. Incrementally, over time, they continue to grab bits and pieces of your freedom. One day it's going to be all gone, ladies and gentlemen, and you're going to wonder, how did all this happen? Oh, wait. Didn't you just say that in the last few months? How did all this happen? It happened because you relied on people you should have never relied on. The only one you can rely on is yourself. And if you can't rely on that person, then there's some deep getting to know yourself and fixing to do real quick. Because if you're expecting to go back to normal, it's not going to happen, folks. And I know you want it to. And maybe you'll get some of the normalities back. But the world has changed. And it's changed because people failed you. Not because of some random accident. It was because they failed you by hook or crook. You can decide that, folks. I don't tell you what to believe. I just tell you how I feel, how I see things, and the news that is going to shape the future events of this country. I'm not worried about what's happening now. Why? Because it's too late. It's done. We need to worry about the next things coming along. It's a sad situation, folks. And I wish I had something better to tell you. I really do. Because I don't like being here every week, being the downer. I'd like to have more comedy in our lives and more fun. But it's hard. It is hard to do a show, to put all that effort in to a show, and to watch so many of the people that supposedly know you, that supposedly care, sharing all this information that they get from mainstream media or they were told by someone else to watch. And it's half-baked, it's fake, it's half-truths, it's not what they're saying it is. It's really hard to watch that, knowing that all you guys have to do is not be in the moment, but thinking about what could happen in the future, because the future is only a day away, folks. And if you're not ready for tomorrow, who cares what happens today? Thanks for listening, folks. Once again, we're out of time. Don't forget, you can go to the website, www.jlebang.com. And until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, I'm John Lebang. Thanking you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Signing off from the Banger Studios.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff. Tune in again next week. Same time, same space, same station.
Resistance is futile.